Chapter 236, Treating Cancer. Dai Shengyue shook her head and smiled. How could I do that? Little senior sister's gift is surely something I like. Having said it, she gently untied the rope. As her eyes landed on the painting, her expression turned slightly surprised, with amazement immediately following. Initially, with Gu Yin's age, even if she painted something, how good could it be? However, the painting was really good. The painting theme was a landscape of a green hill and a stream with a very familiar villa at the foothill. After carefully analyzing it, she realized that the villa on the painting was this exactly same villa she was in. It's a great painting. Dai Shengyue sincerely exclaimed. Tang Xiu was also startled upon seeing the painting. With astonishment in his eyes, he asked with a smile, Yin, you copied the background from our villa, right? Gu Yin laughed, Master, usually, when I don't have any classes, I get bored and try to find things to pass the time. Then I realized that painting is kinda exciting. Tang Xiu laughed, alright, I'll teach you how to paint when I have free time later. Okay. Gu Yin nodded, smiling. Where's Mom? Why isn't she at home? Asked Tang Xiu. Grandma went to the restaurant, she said she will come back quite late. Answered Gu Yin. Tang Xiu said, by the way, a few days later, I'm going out of town, and I'm gonna take you with me. Gu Yin was pleasantly surprised, really? Where are we going? I'll take you to see your senior sister. Said Tang Xiu. Huh? Gu Yin was curious. Master, I have a senior sister? Why didn't I hear you speak of her before? Tang Xiu didn't answer her question, instead went to the kitchen and saw that the nanny was making dinner. Then, he decided to go to Sun Wenjing's house after having supper. Star City's upscale residential area, the Amethyst Gold Garden. Inside of a more than 160 square meters house with exquisite decoration, with high-end furniture placed in an orderly manner. At the moment, Sun Wenjing was sitting on the sofa, facing her two big brothers and younger sisters questioning. In particular, the expression on their faces was gloomy. I'm telling you, Tang Xiu is the most skillful doctor in my Chinese medical hospital. He's even hailed as a divine doctor. Even the hospital's president has admitted that his medical skill is far inferior to his. If he can't cure our mother's illness, nobody in this world could do it. So you don't need to say anything anymore, just let him try to cure Mom. Said Sun Wenjing with all seriousness. Sun Jianhai was the deputy director of Star City Finance Bureau and was the eldest son of the family. At this time, he deeply looked at his sister, Sun Wenjing, and said, did Li Hongji really say that even his medical skill is not as good as Tang Xiu's? Yes. Initially, President Li arranged me to be his assistant. But I judged him solely by his appearance then. I thought that even if his medical expertise is very good, but how powerful could he be at such a young age? But only later did I know how outrageous my thought was. He's very skillful. 3 out of 4 patients that came to our hospital for treatment were healed on the scene by him. As for the other patients, their condition also eased greatly after his treatment. As far as I know, ever since yesterday when he began to give medical service in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, he has received more than 20 penance sent by the family members of the patients. More than 20? Sun Jianhai was shocked, even Sun Jianjun and Sun Wenmin were also astonished. They all knew that when the patient's family members gave penance to doctors, that meant they were showing their wholehearted gratitude. Sun Wenjing continued, there's also another thing that you don't know. There was a mother with her 6 or 7-year-old daughter. They traveled to each major hospital across the country and even visited Chinese and Western medical doctors. But no doctor was able to cure her. Finally, Tang Xiu, who came across them by chance, cured that child's strange illness. Therefore, when Dr. Tang comes, do not treat him with contempt. I myself am unable to cure Mom, so our last chance is on him. Sun Jianhai spoke deeply. If he can really cure Mom, I'll do anything he wants. Second sister, arrange 200,000 yuan. If he can cure Mom, give him the money as a thank you gift. No. We can't give him money. Sun Wenjing angrily said. Sun Jianhai was surprised, asking with a puzzled expression, what do you mean? Tang Xiu agreed to treat Mom under 3 conditions. One of which is that he wants us to come up with 100,000 yuan to be donated to the hospital's patients who come from destitute families. He himself doesn't want money. This? Sun Jianhai and the others were stupefied. This era they lived in, money seemed to have become a yardstick for measuring everything. Nowadays, would even there be someone of noble character and unquestionable integrity, let alone a kind-hearted youngster? Sun Wenmin asked, Big sis, what are the other 2 conditions Dr. Tang stated? At the moment, Sun Jianhai and Sun Jianjun were also curious. Sun Wenjing said, one of the conditions is that I have to take Mom out of the hospital and bring her back home, while he'll come to our home and treat Mom here. The other one is that no matter if he cured Mom or not, our family must never disclose this matter. And we're not in any way to talk about it to anyone. Sun Jianhai slowly said, I understand his concern. There's no medical service all over the world that can cure medium-stage liver cancer. So he doesn't want to cause a sensation. I didn't expect that so young a doctor with such superb medical expertise would be this low profile. To be honest, I'm really anticipating him now. Sun Wenmin said, eldest brother, I'll provide the 100,000 yuan. Regardless of whether he can cure Mom or not, I'm willing to provide the money and donate it to the Chinese medical hospital's patients with destitute family conditions. A trace of a smile was revealed on Sun Jianhai's face as he nodded silently. Half an hour later, the bell rang. Sun Wenjing dashed to the door and opened it, seeing Tang Xiu and Dai Xinyue standing outside. Dr. Tang, Dr. Dai, sorry for troubling you. Sun Wenjing said politely. Tang Xiu shook his head and entered the hall. Then, he saw Sun Wenjing's brothers and sister. After a brief introduction, he exchanged a few pleasantries with the others and finally said, Where's the patient? Take me to her to have a look at her condition. Sun Wenjing said, Come with me. In a spacious and bright room, Sun Wenjing's mother leaned on the bed, watching TV. As she saw her children coming with Tang Xiu and Dai Xinyue, she immediately sat up and smiled, Child, is this the Dr. Tang that you and President Li have talked about? Yes, Mom. He's Dr. Tang. Answered Sun Wenjing. Tang Xiu let out a faint smile. While looking at the elderly woman's slightly pale face, he said with a gentle expression, Elderly lady, I'll have to check the condition of your body first. And when I begin to treat you, perhaps you'll have to endure very painful aches. Would you be able to endure it? The old lady smiled, Don't worry, doctor. What painful things have this old woman not taken in life anyway? There are a lot of knife marks on my body, however much it hurts, I can endure it all. You have a lot of knife marks? Tang Xiu was puzzled. The old lady laughed, saying, Before I got sick, I undergone several surgeries. Also, I'm a woman with children, shouldn't giving birth be the most painful? Whatever the pain is, you can rest assured that I can bear it, Dr. Tang. Tang Xiu suddenly understood. He smiled as he nodded and said, In this world, mothers are truly the greatest existences. The saying is really justified. That's why filial affection is the most important of all virtues. Your children are truly good, elderly lady. Having said that, he took the old lady's wrist. Through sensing her pulse, he immediately discovered that there were indeed many noxious existences inside her body. This kind of toxin should be called cancer cells by the medical community. Moreover, most of the toxin was in her bloodstream. Dr. Tang, what have you found from your examination? Sun Wenjing quickly asked nervously after seeing Tang Xiu take back his hand. I don't have 100% assurance to cure her, but there's hope. Help me prepare a basin of warm water and a few clean towels. The two of you, come and help the elderly lady take her clothes off, leaving only her underwear," said Tang Xiu. Warm water. Towels. Sun Wenjing and the others prepared them quickly. After the old lady's coat had been taken off, she laid on the bed. Tang Xiu said, "Go and pour another half a cup of warm water again. Do remember that it's best to keep the temperature between 30 to 40 degrees. Understood." Sun Wenjing quickly poured another cup of warm water and handed it to Tang Xiu. Tang Xiu took the bottle of diluted body refining liquid from his pocket. He dropped 3 drops of it into the cup and handed it to Sun Wenjing to let the old lady take it. The Sun siblings didn't ask Tang Xiu about what he put into the water. They stood with a fully trusting attitude and quietly watched from the side. Tang Xiu said, "You'd better hold the elderly lady's arms and legs, and immediately put the towel in her mouth to let her bite it. Or else, she'll move her body due to the acute pain when I begin using the silver needles." Understood. The Sun brothers acted accordingly to Tang Xiu's instructions. A few minutes after the old lady had taken half of the cup of warm water mixed with body refining liquid, her body began to slightly shiver. Furthermore, with the passing time, the pain became more intense. If it weren't for her 4 children holding her arms and legs, perhaps she'd have already curled up and convulsed. Whilst watching sweat overflow from the pores all over the old lady's body, her color gradually becoming red, Tang Xiu immediately took the silver needles and quickly pierced 9 big acupuncture points on her body. After having finished everything, Tang Xiu stood still at the side, waiting for the old lady's response. The shivering body of the old lady turned more intense. The pain made her faint and sober up repeatedly, finding herself still alive. Sun Jianhai and Sun Jianjun complexions turned unsightly to the extreme, yet an extremely loving and distressed expression was also there, whereas Sun Wenjing and Sun Wenmin had tears flowing down their faces unceasingly. Looking at their appearances, Tang Xiu secretly appreciated them inwardly. To have such filial children, this old lady's whole life truly was worth it. "Ah, what smell is this?" Sun Jianjun suddenly frowned as he covered his nose and asked. "It's foul stink," said Tang Xiu. Sun Jianjun was puzzled. "Foul stink? From where is this foul stink coming?" "Mom's body." Tang Xiu explained, "In my opinion, the cancer cells inside her body are toxins that are harmful and detrimental to her body. It mixed with her sweat, emanating the foul stench. You must endure it and make sure she lies flat. Or else, if the silver needles on her body are moved, it will be very dangerous." Chapter 237, Remarkable Effect. The Sun siblings were pleasantly surprised upon hearing it. If the discharged substances were really cancer cells, it meant that their mother's condition was highly likely to be cured. Half an hour later, the twitching of the old lady's body had greatly reduced, but the stench coming out of her body was disgusting. Black viscous substances were discharged all over her body's surface, her face and hair was no exception. "Let go of her. Wait for a few minutes and then clean her body." Having spoken, Tang Xiu pulled out the 9 silver needles from the old lady's body. After disinfecting them with alcohol cotton, he then turned around to leave the room. Following him out of the room, Dai Xingyue asked curiously, "Master, what method of treatment did you use? You dropped a few drops of medicinal liquid and pierced 9 silver needles. That's it? The medicinal liquid I gave her is very special. Only very few people in this world aside from me can make it. As for the 9 silver needles, I just sealed the vital acupuncture points in her whole body, to prevent the spreading of the toxins as well as reducing the amount of the discharged substances," answered Tang Xiu. "What will the effect be?" asked Dai Xingyue. "I haven't diagnosed her, so how would I know? Just wait until her children wash and clean her body, then I'll examine her condition again," said Tang Xiu. Shortly after, Sun Jianhai and Sun Jianjun came out of the room. Looking at Tang Xiu, who was sitting on the living room's sofa, Sun Jianhai hesitated for a moment before asking, "Dr. Tang, my mother, she..." Tang Xiu interrupted him, shaking his head, "I don't know yet. Wait until I check her, only then will we know about the effects of the medicine. Don't worry, though. Just sit down and wait for a while." "All right." Sun Jianhai nodded. After sitting in front of Tang Xiu, he asked curiously, "Dr. Tang, have we met before? It's just that I somehow feel that you're familiar. Please don't misunderstand. It's not like I'm intentionally doing this to become friends with you. It's just that I have a particular skill that allows me to memorize people's face well. I'm definitely sure that I've seen you somewhere before." Tang Xiu laughed, "Well, I'm also good at remembering people, but I don't recall having met you before." Involuntarily laughing, Sun Jianhai said, "Perhaps it's my memory failing me. But, as young as you're, yet you can become an on-duty medical expert in our Star City's Chinese medical hospital. Truly, heroes come out of the young. I just hung my name there and rarely give medical services, neither am I an official doctor," said Tang Xiu. "What?" As surprised as he was, Sun Jianhai said, "Didn't you start working yesterday?" "How would? I'm a student. And I just finished my CET and happen to have some time on this summer vacation. Back then, it was difficult to turn down Li Hongji's passionate offer, so I agreed to give medical service in Chinese medical hospital until I begin university in September. Perhaps, I'll have to go to Shanghai University by then," said Tang Xiu. Sun Jianhai looked at Tang Xiu with disbelief. Even in his dreams, he didn't expect that such a superb medical expert would unexpectedly be a student who just finished his CET. Hesitating for a moment, he then asked curiously, "Dr. Tang, with such superb medical expertise, why didn't you apply to any medical colleges or universities?" Tang Xiu shook his head and replied, "No. I have never thought of becoming a doctor in my whole life. I have a lot of things to do. Whether it is my academic life, running my small business, all of them makes me busy." Amazed, Sun Jianhai asked, "You also run a business? Could you tell me what business it is?" Silent for a moment, Tang Xiu shook his head, saying, "It's just some cosmetics and health products. The company has just recently set up, it's inconvenient to tell you the name." Sun Jianhai nodded. Suddenly, his expression changed greatly, exclaiming involuntarily, "Ah, I remember. No wonder. It's no wonder that you seemed familiar before. Yes, your name is Tang Xiu, the legal owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation as well as the big boss, am I right?" "How do you know?" Tang Xiu was surprised. Shocked, Sun Jianhai asked back, "You're really the big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation?" "I am." Tang Xiu concealed it no longer as he saw that Sun Jianhai could guess it. Forcing out a smile, Sun Jianhai said, "Young and promising, truly. Anyways, I work in the finance bureau as a deputy director. A while ago the Bureau of Industry and Commerce's director, my old classmate, had a drink with me and mentioned you. Out of curiosity, I asked information about your company and saw your name and photo on the documents. But, I really have never thought that the divine doctor of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital is unexpectedly the big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation." Dao Xinyue at the side was looking at Tang Xiu, dumbfounded. Although she knew that Tang Xiu's family was rich to be able to live in Southgate Town, which was the most upscale villa complex in Star City, she had never thought that Tang Xiu would be the big boss of the recently greatly famed magnificent Tang Corporation. Heaven. In the end, did she just come under a powerful master? At this moment, Dai Xinyue inwardly rejoiced. Feeling fortunate of becoming Tang Xiu's assistant as well as rejoicing that she put forward a plea to worship him as a teacher. Having such an amazing master, a lot of people probably would wake up from their dreams laughing. Vaguely smiling, Tang Xiu said, Well, the director of your Bureau of Industry and Commerce leaked my information. Shouldn't I sue him? Sun Jianhai stared blankly, an embarrassed expression dawned on his face. He quickly said, Dr. Tang, please don't. He can tell me because we're brothers. We grew up together and were classmates from our childhood until becoming adults. Afterward, as we entered the bureaucracy, we advanced and retreated together. He will never tell anything if it were other people. Smiling, Tang Shou said, It's all right, I'm just joking. However, please tell your classmate to not disclose my situation to anyone. Although I'm the boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation, I don't like to be in the limelight. I also have given full authority of managing the company to General Manager Kong Xia, so I usually don't meddle with the management. I'll make sure to convey your message, Sun Jianhai nodded and said. Very quickly, Sun Wenjing and Sun Wenmin had helped their mother shower and put on clean clothes. Sun Wenjing then came to the living room with a peculiar expression, saying, Dr. Tang, would you come inside and have a look? My mom, she. How is she? Standing up, Tang Shou asked. Sun Wenjing replied, she said that her body is very comfortable, like she became tens of years younger. Although her limbs are still weak, the pain caused by her cancer cells has completely disappeared. Tang Shou nodded and walked into the room as he saw the old lady leaning on the bed with a rosy complexion. Elderly lady, I'm going to check your pulse to examine the condition of your body. The old lady replied gratefully, Thank you, Dr. Tang. I feel much better now. Tang Shou smiled faintly and checked her pulse. Using his spiritual sense to observe her, he found that 2/3 of the cancer cells inside the old lady's body had been eliminated, with 1/3 still remaining inside. Furthermore, her physical fitness at this time was no less vigorous than a young person. It's quite unexpected. The effect of the body refining liquid turned out to be so big for ordinary people. If I were to sell this liquid, wouldn't even a drop be sold for a huge sum of money? Tang Shou secretly shook his head. But his action caused the Sun siblings to turn anxious and tensed up. Sun Jianhai quickly asked, Dr. Tang, how is she? Tang Shou said with a smile, 2/3 of her cancer cells have been killed and excreted. As for the other 1/3, I think they need to be eliminated slowly. Hence, I'll give a bottle of this medicinal liquid to you. Follow my instructions from before, taking 3 drops and mixing them with water for her to drink. After the medicinal liquid in this bottle runs out, I think the cancer cells inside her body will be completely eliminated, but... The Sun siblings were immediately overjoyed. But what, Dr. Tang, asked Sun Wenjing. But, you have to be mentally prepared. Once the cancer cells inside her body have been completely removed and she returns to a normal condition, I'm afraid she'll be able to live for 20 years more at least. So the 4 of you should do your best to be filial to the elderly lady. Tang Shou said with a smile. 20 years? Sun Wenjing stutteringly asked. She knew that her mother was nearly 80 years old. If she could live for more 20 years, wouldn't she be able to live to 100 years? Tang Shou laughed, yes. At least 20 years more. Sun Wenjing swallowed her saliva. Looking at the bottle handed by Tang Shou, she hesitated for a moment and asked, Dr. Tang, might I ask you about this medicine? Tang Shou said, this is my secret medicinal liquid which will be very hard for outsiders to get it. Making this secret medicinal liquid in itself is a very daunting task. So I don't want your mother's treatment to be disclosed to anyone. Otherwise, it will only bring about great troubles for me. We won't do that, absolutely. The Sun siblings quickly promised. Sun Wenjing spoke again, Dr. Tang, about your visiting fee. Tang Shou waved his hand, saying, about the money, just keep in mind my conditions. All right. If there's nothing else, I'll go back now. Do remember to wait for a few days. If you don't feel relieved about the old lady's condition, you can take her to another hospital for an examination. Another hospital? The son's siblings instantly understood Tang Xiu's meaning as they nodded and replied in unison. After leaving the son's residence, Tang Xiu, along with the not yet recovered from shock Dai Xingyue, just left the complex's entrance. They stood on the roadside, waiting for a taxi. Tang Xiu then said, "Well, you've seen the treatment today. As for the effect, you should also pay attention to it closely. Also, you must never tell about the old lady's cancer to anyone. I want you to promise me." Dai Xingyue finally sobered up and promised with all seriousness, "Don't worry, master. This matter will absolutely never come out of my mouth." Tang Xiu nodded. "I'm afraid that I can only give medical services in Chinese medical hospital for 3 days more at the most. Afterward, I won't go there again. As for teaching you medical skills, you must use the next 3 days to seriously study. Later, after I have free time, I'll teach you again." A bit of disappointment showed on Dai Xinyue's face upon hearing it. But she nodded and said, "Master, I know that you're a busy man. Don't worry, though. I'll definitely seriously learn from you." Chapter 238, Other Relatives. In the following days, Tang Xiu still gave medical services in the hospital. The number of patients he treated also increased. His fame spread rapidly, and it was not only limited to Star City. Even throughout the country, his fame attracted a lot of patients. Furthermore, as he gave medical services in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital these days and was able to cure a lot of very difficult and incurable illnesses, his reputation greatly spread in the medical community. Even presidents from several major hospitals in Beijing and Shanghai contacted Li Hongji, inquiring about Tang Xiu. At dusk, as Tang Xiu left the hospital's consultation building, he saw Long Zhengyu leaning on his car and smiling at him. "Why did you come?" Curious, Tang Xiu asked. Long Zhengyu patted the car's door, saying, "CET's results will come out tomorrow. But I'm not here to congratulate you in advance, though. Anyways, I heard that you've been giving medical services in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital these days and have received hundreds of pennants." Tang Xiu laughed. "Yeah, but forget about those pennants. Those things are not useful, just the grateful regards of the patient's relatives that matters, so I gave them to Li Hongji. It's up to him what to do with them." Long Zhengyu gave a thumb up and exclaimed, "To be honest, I really have to thank my good-for-nothing little brother. He did the rightest thing in his life for taking you to me. Let's go, I've booked an anteroom in Long's dining hall." The two boys, Bai Tao and Chu Yi, just got there. "Let's have a drink tonight, not going home until we're drunk." Tang Xiu was about to sit on co-pilot seat, but Long Zhengyu stopped him and took a document folder out of the driver's seat. He handed it over to Tang Xiu, saying, "You drive. Let me test your driving skills." Puzzled, Tang Xiu replied, "But I haven't gotten the driver's license yet, and you want me to drive?" "Open the document folder and have a look." Long Zhengyu laughed. Opening the document folder, Tang Xiu found his driving license inside, along with 2 keys. Taking the keys, he then asked, "What are these?" "Well, I gave you the house, so you can consider it as me supporting you, no? Gifting you the house without a car, it won't do. I don't know what kind of car you like, however. So I just bought the same car as Lulu's. Well, you can consider it as lover's model anyway. Land Rover's Range Rover type." Tang Xiu was surprised. "It seems you really know Lulu's disposition well." "Yup. The color is exactly the same as hers, white. And it looks great too. The car is parked in the Long's dining hall's underground parking garage." Long Zhengyu said with a smile. Tang Xiu was at a loss whether he had to be happy or cry, saying, "You're really taking us as a couple, aren't you? I tell you, my relationship with Lulu is pure. But, I do like that car a lot. Thanks a bunch for gifting and sending it to me. Anyway, let's go, tonight's drinks are on me. Well, since the famous young master Tang wants to bleed, then I'll be sure to be blunt. Long Zhengyu said with a laugh. Tang Xiu sat in the driver's seat. He took the time to feel and familiarize himself with the features of the car before he started it, and then started driving. At first, he wasn't skilled at it, but after a few minutes of attunement, he gradually grasped it. He didn't violate any traffic regulations even though it was his first time and drove to the Long's dining hall's underground parking lot. Satisfied, he patted the steering wheel, nodding, "A good car is a good car indeed. This one is a lot cooler than the car for driver training. Do you like my Maserati? How about I give it to you?" Long Zhengyu. Nope. Forget it. You got a strange smell inside your car. Tang Xiu shook his head and said. Strange smell. Long Zhengyu was puzzled. No way. My car's cologne is the best in the world. It's priced at several $100,000 per bottle. Except for its fragrance, where would have any strange smell? Tang Xiu teased him, who knows how many women have you played with in this car? It'd be damn strange if there's no strange smell at all. Let's go, take me to see my car. Damn you, buddy. Long Zhengyu didn't know whether he had to laugh or be angry as he then got off from the co-pilot seat. Quickly, he took Tang Xiu to a brand new white Land Rover SUV, saying, "Well, you wanna try it and have a lap since you didn't drink anything yet? Forget it. But, isn't it way too good a license plate you got here? 3 6s is kinda showing off, isn't it?" Tang Xiu shook his head and lightly laughed. Smiling, Long Zhengyu said, "The car was purchased with your ID card, and the car's license plate was also done with your ID card. 666, go go go. I think it looks good, no big deal." Tang Xiu shook his head, "Let's go upstairs and drink. Anyways, for those two guys to come to Star City, that matter is over, right?"
Yeah.
Completely. 90% of the Zhang's assets have been divided by us, whereas the leftover 10% went to some unimportant chaps of the Zhangs and to the banks. This time, all of our parties have eaten to the full. Bai Tao and Chui joined late, so they only got a little, but they had gotten down their capitals as well. They also have added several billion in investment into the big project's preparation. A few days later, every group leader of our clique will gather to divide the shares. Whilst walking, Long Zhengyu spoke. Tang Xiu, Bai Tao and Chui are scions from respected families, but they don't give off the vibes of hedonistic scions from rich families whatsoever. That's why I like them. Especially Chui, he's very smart and reliable. Damn. If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten it. I still owe him some money. You owe him money? For what? Long Zhengyu was puzzled. Tang Xiu smiled, "Chui sent me a box of precious medicinal herbs and I haven't paid him for it yet." Well, forget it. I won't mention this matter for now since I'll pay it back a while later after I got some money. Besides, he's a rich boss, he's not short of money. Long Zhengyu laughed, "That's true. But, are you short of money recently? I bumped into Kong Xia a few days ago when you called her to transfer you some money." A few days ago? Tang Xiu understood in a flash, asking, "You mean that 20 million? Yeah. Long Zhengyu nodded. I was going to buy something and needed 20 million. I only had a few million so I called Kong Xia to send more. Actually, it's real. I'm really poor, having no money and can only become a freeloader. But you're the famous young Master Long, young and rich, would you please give me some pocket money? You don't have to give much, though. If you have the nerve to give me 1.8 billion yuan, I'm sure I won't refuse it," said Tang Xiu. 1. Go to hell. Long Zhengyu laughed and cursed. The two laughed merrily and finally arrived at the presidential suite of Long's dining hall. Seeing Bai Tao and Chui, the 4 young men gathered and begun drinking. Ring, ring, ring. Just as Tang Xiu was about to double up the foreign wine into his stomach, the mobile in his pocket rang. He took out the phone and saw the caller ID. It turned out to be his mother. He immediately made an excuse to the others. Whilst walking outside, he answered the phone and said with a smile, "Hi Mom, something up?" Su Lingyun's slightly crying voice came out of the phone, "Xiu, can you come back now? Your grandma is injured. I want you to accompany me back home to see her." Grandmother? An honest, genial face appeared in Tang Xiu's memory. Although 10,000 years had lapsed, he still clearly remembered his grandmother's face. He also remembered how she deeply cared for him in his childhood, more than she cared about the Su siblings. "Mom, no need to worry. Can you tell me what's going on exactly?" "Grandma is in the countryside. How was she hurt?" asked Tang Xiu. Su Lingyun answered, "I don't know the details. But it looks like some people bullied your grandma and beat her. It's your second aunt next door who called me. Your grandma has been sent to the county hospital by them, but I don't know anything else." Tang Xiu replied with a deep tone, "Don't worry, Mom. I'll go back to Southgate Town immediately to pick you up. We'll go to ancestral home tonight. Trust me. As long as I'm there, Grandma won't have any troubles." "All right," Su Lingyun replied. Tang Xiu hung up the phone and went back into the room. He then spoke with a heavy tone, "Something happened in my ancestral home, so I have to leave now. Please continue your fun and put the bill on me since the Long's Dining Hall's membership seems to provide this service." "Tang Xiu, what happened? Do you want our help?" Long Zhengyu was confused and asked. Tang Xiu shook his head, "No need for now. I'll contact you if it's necessary later." "Well, I gotta go now." Having said that, he picked up the document folder and quickly left the presidential suite. Coming down to the underground parking lot, ignoring that he had just drunk a lot, he drove the SUV and quickly returned to Southgate Town. At this time, with worry all over her face, Su Lingyun was standing in front of the villa's courtyard entrance, waiting. Upon seeing a car stopping in front of her and Tang Xiu getting out from it, she was astonished and immediately asked, "Sonny, where did you get this car from? Also, when did you learn to drive?" "I went to a driving school to take the driver's license test some time ago, and I just got it today. The car was gifted by my friend." "Mom, take your things. We'll go to our ancestral home tonight." You'll drive us there? Are you sure you can do it?" Su Lingyun said. "Mom, I have a driver's license, so naturally it won't be a problem," said Tang Xiu. Su Lingyun nodded, "My luggage is already packed up. Pack your stuff first, perhaps we'll have to stay there for some time." Tang Xiu was silent for a moment. Then, he dialed Kong Xia's cell number. After she picked it up, he said, "Can you do me a favor? It's private." "What happened?" asked Kong Xia. "My mother and I need to go to our ancestral home. Although there are nannies here to look after Inin, I don't feel relieved. Can you stay in my house in Southgate Town while I'm away to take care of her?" said Tang Xiu. Kong Xia said, "No problem." Tang Xiu thanked her and then entered the villa to pack his things. A few minutes later, he casually grabbed several sets of clothes. Then, along with his mother, Su Lingyun, he drove the car toward his ancestral home's direction. Since he only got his driver's license, he didn't drive too fast and could only use the navigation system to find the road there. Chapter 239, The Causes of the Matter. Qinghe County was the most remote county in Star City. Its economic development was also the most backward, with a population of hundreds of thousands of people, and nearly 100 kilometers from Star City. A Land Rover SUV was traversing on the bumpy roads with dim streetlights, driving fast toward the county's hospital. 12 o'clock, midnight. The SUV went to county's hospital's entrance. The two lazy security guards at the entrance were shocked, even modestly saluting. Mom, we've arrived. Tang Xiu was weary as he called out to the drowsy Su Lingyun with a low voice. Su Lingyun sobered up. She looked at the scene under the dim light outside and was surprised. We arrived so quick? Tang Xiu said, Qinghe County isn't far from Star City, and I had driven for more than 2 hours. If the road was good, perhaps it wouldn't take 1.5 hours. Mom, call the neighbor, second aunt to ask which ward Grandma is in. Su Lingyun was as though waking up from a dream. She took out her mobile phone, dialed a number and spoke with the other side for a while. Her expression turned very ugly as she looked at Tang Xiu and said, Your grandma, she's still waiting for the doctor in the ward for surgery. It seems that her leg is broken. What? Tang Xiu looked at Su Lingyun with disbelief. It was already 3 to 4 hours that his grandma got injured, and it takes only half an hour from the village to the county. Why hadn't she had the surgery until now? Tang Xiu's expression was grim. He said with a heavy tone, Mom, let's go in now. Su Lingyun nodded heavily. She opened the door and got off the car, hurriedly running toward the treatment building. A few minutes later, the mother and son then arrived in front of the operating room's door on the 4th floor of the treatment building. In the corridor outside the operating room's door, he saw his grandmother lying on a wheeled stretcher, along with her neighbor second aunt and her son, Su Ben. Sis Lingyun, you finally came. Auntie, she's heavily injured but now there's no queue for the surgery. Upon seeing Su Lingyun, Chen Huiying was pleasantly surprised and greeted immediately her. Su Lingyun quickly asked, Huiying, what happened? Are there a lot of people having surgery today? Forcing out a smile, Chen Huiying said, I dare say that except for the few doctors in this operating room, there's no patient undergoing surgery. They're just intentionally delaying. There's a total of 6 people wounded from our village. The others have been taken away by their families, saying that we must change hospitals. But little Ben had just called them and found that the other hospitals are also deliberately delaying. So they sent them to Star City under desperation. Why? Isn't it the hospital's duty to help the dying and heal the wounded? Is it because it's too late? Chen Huiying interrupted her, wryly smiling, someone brought trouble to our village. He's also the one who injured the villagers, at the same time also injuring 2 others more. I heard he's from a rich and powerful family. No matter if it's the Public Security Bureau or the Health Bureau, they're their people. So they must be the ones pulling the strings. Tang Xiu interrupted, second aunt, what's the reason for the conflict? Looking at Tang Xiu, Chen Huiying squeezed out a smile, saying, the government wants to levy our village's land, saying that they will build an industrial park. It was a good thing initially, but it turns out that each household and family's land, it's only priced 20,000 yuan per mu. Tang Xiu, you're educated and can think clearly. You tell me, would 20,000 yuan be enough for anything nowadays? We're just ordinary people relying on farming to eat. With that amount of money, once we've spent them, we can only drink and eat the wind later. Tang Xiu took a deep breath with anger suffusing in his eyes. He knew his aunt was right. People in rural areas depended on their lands. If they didn't have their lands, how would they live in the future? 20,000 yuan? Houses in Qinghe County were already priced 2,000 to 3,000 per square foot. Would 20,000 yuan even be sufficient to buy a house? It wouldn't be enough. Furthermore, the price for the expropriated land and indemnity was definitely a dozen times, or even 100 times more than 20,000 yuan. Looking at his grandmother on the stretcher with a tight frown, his murderous intent raised upon seeing her pained expression. Taking a deep breath and repressing the hatred inside of him, he lifted the thin quilt covering his grandmother. Gently holding and placing her on the chair, he then looked at Su Ben, saying, Brother Ben, help me hold Grandma. I'll examine her injury. Chen Huiying anxiously said, Tang Xiu, don't do unnecessary things. Your grandma not only has a broken leg, that bunch of bastards also kicked her a few times. We don't know whether her bones are dislocated. Tang Xiu looked at her and shook his head. As Su Ben propped up his grandmother, he gently ripped her trouser leg. After it was torn up to the leg bend, the swelling looked to have subsided, and it was obvious that the bone was fractured, causing Tang Xiu turn a bit distressed.
Ah.
It's you, Xiu. Zhang Shi woke up in pain. When she saw that the one squatting in front of her was her grandson, Tang Xiu, a smile was squeezed out on her wrinkled face. As she spoke, she also stroked Tang Xiu's head with her skinny palm. Tang Xiu began to act supinely as he looked up and smiled. Grandma, please endure the pain while I examine your injuries. Mom knows that I learned a medical skill recently and am also a skilled doctor at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. Su Lingyun came to Zhang Shi's side and said with worry all over her face, Xiu, can you do it? Don't let your grandma's injuries worsen. Don't worry, Mom, said Tang Xiu. Having said that, his palms gently pressed Zhang Shi's swelling leg and found that her leg bone was fractured. If other doctors were to treat it, perhaps it would be very troublesome. After all, Grandma was old and it would be very difficult for her bone to be healed. But, this state of injury was not a problem for him. Auntie, how did you come here? Tang Xiu looked up and asked. Chen Huiying said, Su Quan brought us here with his car. He drove the others to Star City. Tang Xiu nodded and looked at the operating room. He knew clearly well that a few doctors in white coats were inside. As Chen Huiying said, there were no patients in the operating room, only 3 doctors playing do diju. Let's go. Tang Xiu propped Zhang Shi up and spoke with a heavy tone. Su Lingyun hurriedly asked, Xiu, where are we going? Aren't we going to wait for your grandma's surgery? Tang Xiu sneered, don't you see it, Mom? Someone bought the people in this hospital, they won't perform the surgery on Grandma. I'll settle the account with them later. We'll take Grandma and go home first. I have a way to cure her injury. You really have a way? Although Su Lingyu knew that the president of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital personally hired Tang Xiu, but she had never seen her son treat patients, so she was a bit apprehensive. Tang Xiu said, I can, Mom, don't worry. I won't joke with Grandma's injuries. Su Lingyu nodded. She looked at Chen Huiying and said, Huiying, let's go. Since Xiu can cure Mom's injuries, then we'll leave. Chen Huiying hesitated for a moment. She looked at Tang Xiu and then at Su Lingyun, only then did she nod with a wry smile. She was actually a bit annoyed toward Tang Xiu because he knew the situation. He was obviously only a high schooler, where would he have any medical skills? Even if he had studied it from others, wouldn't it better to stay and wait for treatment in the hospital? However, since Su Lingyun said to go, she also couldn't say anything. Tang Xiu held Zhang Shi, leaving the hospital and going straight toward the parking lot. Su Ben quickly said, Tang Xiu, we're going the wrong way. That way is the parking lot. Let's go back and head outside to get a car. Tang Xiu shook his head and went straight to the parking lot. He told Su Lingyun to take out the car key from his pocket and taught her how to unlock it. Then, after the door was opened, he carefully put Zhang Shi in the back seat, saying, Mom, you in second aunt's seat at Grandma's sides. Brother Ben, you take the co-pilot seat. Upon seeing Su Lingyun taking the car key from Tang Xiu's pocket, Chen Huiying and Su Ben were dumbfounded as the car's lights flashed. The car in front of them was really too luxurious. Su Ben, in particular. He was 23 years old now. Although he usually tagged along with the construction team to build houses everywhere, he still knew that this car, the Land Rover Range Rover. Tang Xiu, is this car yours? Upon hearing Tang Xiu's words, only then did Su Ben awake from his dazed state and asked stutteringly. Yes. It's mine, said Tang Xiu. Su Ben swallowed his saliva and said with shivering lips, this Land Rover is from the Range Rover series, isn't it? I saw a big boss driving this kind of car and he's very rich, with tens of millions in assets. This car, at the cheapest, costs more than 1 million, right? Tang Xiu said indifferently, let's not talk about the car, we'll go back first. Su Ben hesitated for a moment and clenched his teeth as he opened the co-pilot's door and quickly drilled into it. Feeling the spacious space and cozy seat, he felt like he was dreaming. He had never taken a ride in such a good car. He didn't even know where to put his hands and feet. Tang Xiu started the car, driving out of the hospital skillfully and heading toward the Songlu small town, to the Su family village. The Su family village was not far from the center of the county, taking only a dozen minutes to get there. However, due to the bad road, Tang Xiu drove slowly in order to prevent his grandmother receiving too many tremors. A dilapidated house with a shabby courtyard. Zhang sure lived here. Even the Su family had lived here for generations. All the villagers of the Su village, aside from the wives they married, were all surnamed Su. Almost every family was related in kinship and was regarded as their own family. We'll get grandmother inside first. I need to prepare something, said Tang Xiu. Puzzled, Su Lingyun said, Xiu, what needs to be prepared? Tell me, I'll go find it. Chapter 240, Back Home. Tang Xiu rejected Su Lingyun's proposition. What he needed to find were medicinal herbs and silver needles. Because he came in a hurry and didn't know what exactly happened to his grandmother, he didn't bring anything to treat her injuries. Big brother Ben, are you sleepy? Asked Tang Xiu. Su Ben shook his head, I'm not. All right, then come with me. I need to find some things as fast as possible and then come back to treat grandma's injuries. All right. Su Ben nodded. Tang Xiu knew Su Ben very well. He was simple and honest ever since he was small until he grew up. Usually, he rarely spoke. But no matter which family faced hardships in the village, he would lend them a hand. This trait was inherited from his father, the honest and considerate second uncle who died young. A typical peasant who was resigned to his plot of land and toiled over it with his back to the sky. In fact, even though Tang Xiu lived his childhood in Su family village for 10 years, he didn't have the same family name. It was reasonable to say that he should address Chen Huiying as maternal second aunt and address the elders in the village as maternal uncles and aunts. Yet, in order to prevent Tang Xiu feel he didn't belong, Su Lingyun made him address them in accordance with the Su family members' names, and address everyone as paternal uncles and aunts, or paternal grandfather or grandmother. 1. Apart from this, all of his relatives had the same surname as his maternal grandparents and maternal uncles. Tang Xiu led Su Ben back to the car and quickly drove out of the village. To the north of the Su family village were the Yuzhou Ridge and a tens of meters wide large river. The land was considered to be located on a mountain on one side and water on the other. A typical fertile land. Seeing Tang Xiu not going into the town nor taking the county road, instead of moving toward the mountain north of the village, Su Ben was confused and suddenly asked, Tang Xiu, why are we going there? Tang Xiu smiled, do you remember when you took us to the mountains to pick wild fruits when we were small? I saw a lot of wild medicinal herbs in the mountains before. But at that time, I didn't know about them and thought they were weeds. Now, since I have studied medicine, I can accurately pick them out. So we'll go the mountains to get some herbs and then come back. Su Ben understood in a flash. He raised his thumb and said, you're really good, Tang Xiu. Haven't you gone to study in Star City for just 6 years? But not only did you came back driving a Land Rover SUV, you have also learned medical skills. If I knew, I would have gone to Star City earlier. Tang Xiu smiled faintly and no longer spoke. It was a fact that he studied in Star City. But his abilities, if not for the car accident and great fortuitous events, he'd perhaps still be an ignorant student now, studying step by step every day and waiting for his CET's results. Fate was truly mysterious sometimes. After Tang Xiu became a supreme in the immortal world, he never believed in fate again, because he thought that he could control his destiny and the heavenly law. But fate and the heavenly law did have supreme influence and power over ordinary people. The night was pitch black. Feeling the cool breeze of the late summer night, Tang Xiu felt that his foul mood had faded lot. He would investigate the beating of his grandmother. No matter what background the other party had, he would never forgive them, for they had hurt the people he cared about. I'll park the car, and then we'll go uphill. At the foot of the hill, after calming down, Tang Xiu opened the car's door and calmly said. Su Ben hesitated. Tang Xiu, you're not afraid of someone stealing the car? With a pale smile, Tang Xiu said, it's the middle of the night. Who in their right mind would run up to the mountain at this time? Besides, who would have the ability to steal it anyway? All right, finding medicinal herbs is more important, we don't need to think about other things. Su Ben nodded. It was, after all, Tang Xiu's car. Only, he was now very curious about him. From where he had the money to buy such a luxurious car, as well as curious about how good his medical skills were. The winding, rugged mountain pathways were as though flat land to Tang Xiu and Su Ben as they shuttled back and forth in the wooded mountain. After 20 minutes, they had already hiked halfway up the mountain. Tang Xiu, careful now. You also know about this wooded mountain. There are a lot of wild animals appearing, especially at night. If we bump into wolves and bears, it will be troublesome. Sun Ben was simple and honest, but he was also a meticulous and cautious person. Don't worry. Tang Xiu nodded casually. If it was before, he would be more cautious than Su Ben. But the present him was no longer weak. He could easily get rid of ordinary wild animals with his fists and legs. Tang Xiu, I know that you're smart since you were small. But now, is different from the past. A few days ago a very ferocious leopard appeared on this mountain. Genxi's father came to this mountain to hunt game, but he died here. At that time, the villagers organized tens of people to go looking for him in the mountain and only found his clothes and his remnant gnawed bones. Furthermore, we also bumped into that cow-sized leopard. If not for me carrying a gun, perhaps dozens of our people would have died. Tang Xiu was astonished. The leopard is cow-sized? Are you kidding me? If there's really such a big leopard, wouldn't it have successfully become a spirit? Su Ben forced a smile. I suppose so. That leopard might have really become a spirit. It was at least 2 times faster than that tiger we saw when we were young. Furthermore, Genxi and I sneaked back in the mountain and saw that leopard easily killing a few wolves. And you must know, there were dozens of wolves besieging it. Tang Xiu's eyes turned bright. Through Su Ben's description, he was certain that the leopard was surely a fierce beast that had spiritual wisdom. Although he had no shortage of fierce beasts' bones materials, hunting and killing it was a good thing. All in all, the more of them the better. Tang Xiu, we have to quickly find them. My cell phone is almost out of power, the phone's light won't last long. Seeing the thoughtful expression on Tang Xiu's face, Su Ben urged in a low voice. Tang Xiu nodded. He actually didn't need the cell phone's light. His eyes could see everything in the surrounding, even in this darkness. Moreover, he didn't rely on his eyes in finding the medicinal herbs, but his spiritual sense. He released his perception and covered the plant and trees within the radius of 200 meters. Only in this way would he be able to find the medicinal herbs in the shortest possible time. Found it. 10 minutes later, Tang Xiu's eyes turned bright. He quickly found the needed herb in a cliff crevice. It was the silver dragon grass. Tang Xiu, what are you looking for exactly? Su Ben's expression was a bit strange. He stared at the herb in Tang Xiu's hand and observed it for a while before he asked curiously. Tang Xiu said, this one is a silver dragon grass. Aside from eliminating silt blood, it can also nourish the bones. This herb is not easy to find. The reason I came looking for it is that I remember having seen it when we hiked up this mountain when we were small. Su Ben touched his nose and said with a wry smile, if I knew that you needed this herb earlier, we wouldn't have tired ourselves running here. A few days ago when I was cutting grass to feed the sheep, I cut a lot of these medicinal herbs. Some of them are still in the shed now. What? Tang Xiu looked at him with disbelief. One must know that if these medicinal herbs were to be sold in the medicinal herbs market in the city, the silver dragon grass could fetch a price of 1,000 yuan each. But Su Ben turned out to be feeding them to the sheep? This was way too extravagant and wasteful, wasn't it? Tang Xiu secretly shook his head and said with a dry smile, Big brother Ben, when we go back, quickly pick out those silver dragon grasses. Bear in mind, this medicinal herb is very valuable. If you can find a lot of them, I'm willing to buy them for 1,000 yuan each. What? Su Ben stared. He was almost scared to death. 1,000 yuan? The livestock he raised at home and the wage he got from the construction team, how much money would he get for the whole year? It was only a mere 20,000 yuan. This silver dragon grass is worth 1,000 yuan. With those 23 strains left, it was equal to his hard-earned annual income. Tang Xiu, are not you kidding me? Sun Ben asked seriously. No, I'm not. Tang Xiu said. If you can find more silver dragon grasses, I will buy them for 1,000 yuan each. However, this mountain has wild animals. If you come pick them, you would likely enter their territories and court danger. Su Ben said, don't worry. I know a good deal about it. So after I go back, I'll search and see how many silver dragon grass are left there. All right. Tang Xiu nodded. The two no longer stayed on the mountain. Tang Xiu was a bit regretful since he didn't encounter any fierce beasts, but Grandma's injuries were more important. He couldn't delay here for too long. Back to the place where he parked the car, Tang Xiu drove back to the Su family village and dropped Su Ben in front of his house. Su Ben told him that the village chief had silver needles, so Tang Xiu didn't need to go elsewhere to find it. Xiu. Have you found what you needed? Seeing that Tang Xiu had come back, Su Lingyun asked. Yes, Mom. Tang Xiu said. Big brother Ben also had some with him, so I can treat grandmother's injuries. Although Chen Huiying was very sleepy, she didn't go home to sleep. She was concerned about Zhang Shi's injury and her son had left with Tang Xiu, so she waited. As she heard Tang Xiu's words, she curiously asked, didn't Ben go out with you? Where's he? He went to the village chief. He said that the chief has silver needles. Said Tang Xiu. Right. Chen Huiying nodded, the village chief used to be a barefoot doctor. If it wasn't because that accident several years ago, with some people dying, our village would have a senior doctor now. At this moment, Zhang Shi finally awoke. She also just talked to her daughter a lot. Upon seeing Tang Xiu had come back, she waved and called him, saying, Xiu. Grandmother is useless. That man just gently beat me twice, but my leg broke. Tang Xiu shook his head, Grandma, you're old. But in my heart, you're actually a capable person. When I was small, what I liked the most was eating your sweet-scented osmanthus cake. Although Zhang Shi was feeling pain, she still smiled, if Grandma's leg gets better, I'll make osmanthus cake for you. Tang Xiu said laughed, thanks, Grandma. I know that aside from Mom, you're also very good to me.